The creator becomes individual in order to have experiences, gain knowledge, grow, evolve in every way. The one cannot do this alone. With whom would it exchange information? That is why it multiplies and divides itself. Infinite possibilities, infinite beings, etc. are created. It can play ball, box, climb mountains, but it is not possible to do this alone. It is necessary to create a material world in order to have an amusement park. Then, a Big Bang occurs here, a Big Bang there, a universe here, a multiverse. The laws of physics change a little from one universe to another, the shapes vary. It is not necessary to have a head, trunk and limbs, 5 fingers, 2 ears, as we are here, infinite varieties can occur. Why would the one restrict itself to walking like this? Why would it not experiment with other forms? Are there not millions of species on this planet? Insects, plants, animals, millions and millions. So, why cannot it experience this, in all possible and imaginable ways, and in diverse situations? Think about this, since it is infinite in potential, the one cannot restrict itself. This is the logic, because if it restricts itself, it will no longer be the Almighty. Therefore, it leaves open the infinite possibilities. And thus the question is resolved, why does evil exist? Why did such and such happen? Why did an accident happen? And those answers appear, the unfathomable designs. This is logic, for the love of God. These events happen because the infinite possibilities must be open. It cannot restrict, oh, you can't kill anyone. From the moment it does this, it restricts itself. It does not restrict the person, but itself. It cannot do this, otherwise it loses its infinite possibilities, its own essence. Therefore, it needs to leave it open. But, to ensure that everything works well, there are rules, many laws of physics. Whoever makes a mistake will add antimatter, because the system only works on the side of good. Whoever wants to go against the essence of the Creator will start to have problem. Free will is relative. It is possible to play between two defined points, it is not possible to go beyond. The universe has an owner. People can play as they wish, but they must remember that the universe has an owner. Don't you agree that this is absolutely logical? Well, no one should be afraid and think like this, I will evolve, I will become enlightened and disappear. That is not how it happens, it is the opposite. One must have a very strong ego to be able to become enlightened. It is not by losing one's ego that a person will become enlightened. The bigger one's ego, the more enlightenment one will have. A weak ego is of a weak person. What will this person do? Imagine a Nelson Mandela, a Martin Luther King, a Mahatma Gandhi. How big is their ego? It is so big that when they arrive at a place, they say, what do I need to change here? Where? Something very big. South Africa, for example. I'm going there. What is the biggest problem here? What is the most difficult? That is what I will do. You can put them wherever you want and they will solve it. So imagine the size of their ego. If one of them had a small ego, it would be like. Well, it's better not to say anything so as not to get into trouble. Because someone, the owner of some establishment, will say that Hélio looked down on someone. So, I won't say anything, because the lecture is being recorded, and someone might get upset. Is the ego problem solved? The bigger the ego, the more the person wants to do. Of course. And consistent with the size of their ego. The question is, when a person asks for someone else's intellectual, mental, emotional knowledge, does he lose his own? I've already answered that, right? You only add knowledge. You don't lose anything, ever. You only add. And, also, you won't merge with the person you asked for, with the other person's information. Of course, right? If you don't merge with the quantum vacuum, much less with the information, whatever it is that you asked for, that won't happen. You will gather information. It stays there in a little box, in a little drawer. When you need it, you use it. For example, you asked for the knowledge of a banker. Tomorrow, if you sit in front of a banker, a manager, to negotiate a debt or anything you want in a bank, what will you do? You will use the knowledge and emotions of that great banker who has already asked, and you will deal with the bank manager, that is, from banker to bank manager, banker at the top and bank manager below. Does this matter or not? It is called power, negotiation capacity. When you do business, sit at the table to negotiate a contract, a sale, having gathered together some businessmen that you have already asked for, big businessmen, mega businessmen, how do you think you will react when faced with someone who wants to outdo you? Because that is normal, right? Trying to outdo the other person. It will be impossible, because you will learn, they will have superior negotiation techniques and everything else, from the best in the world, let's say. The other person is a mere mortal, and you have the information of the best in the world. Now, exponentiate this to all the activities you want. You have the archetype of the businessman, the scientist, the teacher, the singer, the guitarist, the soccer player, the mountain climber, whatever you want. What will be the problem in advancing in your career? The more you understand about resonance, the more amazed you will be by humanity. Because, even though a lot of power is being placed at the disposal of some people, it doesn't always happen like this. Do you think this happens every day, throughout the universes? No, it doesn't. This is an exception. It's an XC tie-in. Enjoy it, because it won't last long either. What does a certain person deserve to receive what Hélio is going through? Have you ever wondered? The person comes, after having done terrible things, sits in front of me, asks for a bunch of little things, I provide them, and everything is fine. Can you imagine? Normally, the person would have to resolve their pending issues, in order to then receive all the benefits. Remember? First, they would need to resolve all the so-called karma, in order to then start receiving the toys, the prizes, etc. And that is not the case in our work, which does not make judgments. But do not think that judgment has disappeared from the universe. It is simply in another department. There are other departments besides the one I work in. Remember what I said about helping? I do not judge, I do not execute, I only help. This department is open to help. So, you can come, you can dump, when you talk to me, you can dump all your problems, all your tragedies, every Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. There will be no judgment, I will only help, I will only give. This should be enough to raise everyone's ears. They should ask, in light of this, how do you interpret the justice of the universe? The guy did this, and still gets an apartment, a car, a boat, everything. And the idea that, what you did in this life, you pay for in this life. Has this law been repealed? Is it the same as Wall Street accounting? The law was not repealed, but an exception was created, in this case, with this work, in order to prove quantum mechanics. We are not judging whether people deserve houses, cars, apartments, planes, boats, etc. We are not judging this at the moment, so that we can prove that quantum mechanics exists, that everything is consciousness, that the electron passes, everything that has been said about quantum mechanics is true, as is the reality of the universe, in order to change the paradigm. The Creator is so benevolent that He gave you a vacation. If you were really smart, what would you ask for? Instead of a house, a car, or an apartment, you would ask for love. You would ask to cleanse your karma, to cleanse your emotional and mental bodies, to cleanse everything. If the archetype of love that would cleanse everything is available, you would make a quantum leap. It wouldn't take n times to cleanse all of this, to evolve, to become enlightened. It would be possible to do it all at once, this time. A leap of millions of years can be made if the person lets it. But who asks for this? No one. It's incredible. And if no one asks, there will be no enlightenment. The person will stay the way they are, with more cars, houses, apartments, in short, with the toys. When this work is transferred, when this phase is over, the problems will return. The person will keep the toys, but the antimatter will also be present. They will have $1 million apartment, if they want. But did they ask to remove the antimatter? No. Through resonance, one is trying to bring in love and remove antimatter, but the person won't let it. Do you want to become enlightened? Did someone ask for great avatars, great spiritual leaders? You can count on the fingers of one hand the number of people who ask for this. You could make a giant leap in your life if you did this. But, of course, if I receive this, I will have to act coherently with what I received, isn't that true? Or does anyone think that they will run any company with the archetype of love inside? Will they succeed? Will they just kick in the bud with the archetype of love inside? No. There will be consequences. You will be an achiever. But on this planet, life is complicated for those who achieve. So what? When you change, you are no longer what you were. Therefore, you will not care about opposition. Or do you think that Gandhi was worried about whether he would get shot, or 2, or 3? Do you think he was afraid? When he got shot, he was happy. He went to his place, points upwards, to see the next mission. It is difficult for an ordinary person, with their view of reality, with their paradigm, to evaluate a man who has this higher degree. If I become enlightened, they will shoot me 3 times and I will die. Poor me. You will think like this, if you have not yet become enlightened. When you become enlightened, this will no longer matter at all. You will be different. If a Gandhi enters this friend of ours, pointing to someone in the audience, he will no longer ask questions like, what will happen to me? He will not have this concern, he will go out and achieve. But it is as she, another person in the audience, said, you are scared to death. At the current stage, when you have not experienced what it is like to be unified with the quantum vacuum, the whole, you look at this from the outside, and you are scared to death of what might happen, as that person, listener in the audience, said, I will disappear, I will merge. You do not achieve anything, because you are afraid. As a preventive measure, no one asks for spiritual leaders. If they do not even ask for businessmen, let alone great spiritual leaders, is that right? If they don't even move to earn money or libido, imagine if someone would ask for a spiritual leader. And the situation gets even worse, because there are prejudices and taboos. How does a spiritual leader analyze the issue of sex? In this case, everything gets complicated, because sex is dirty, it's a sin, it's a horrible thing, isn't that how people think? I don't know how the Creator could do something like that. He must have been crazy when he created it. Everyone should be hermaphrodites. Isn't it clear that it is through love that galaxies are created, that matter was created? What do you think the Big Bang is? An explosion, something else? No one knows, right? The explanations are not clear. Let's talk about the first 3 minutes first. But, at the final moment of the Big Bang, what happens for the energy to expand like that? What do you think happens to generate a Big Bang? Guess what? Audience. Orgasm. Professor Hélio. That's it, a great answer. A cosmic orgasm. Himself with himself. When the first subdivision occurred, it was his action with himself. Yin and Yang. That's how everything was created, all the material universes. But imagine how long it will take for physics to reach such a conclusion, to be able to understand and accept this. Do you understand how far we go, as we reason? One thing leads to another, and it's all absolutely logical. I'm not getting carried away. That's how it is. That's why there is yin and yang, which is his first subdivision. Himself with himself. Just by this concept, one realizes how far humanity is from understanding this subject. But it's not necessary to understand everything. All you need to do is make requests, just want to grow, want to evolve, even as a businessman or a soccer player, any desire will be useful, because it will add information. Little by little, you get there. Extrasensory perception. This is a capacity that can be applied. Imagine everyone with extrasensory abilities, everyone being clairvoyant, clairaudient, telekinetic, everyone reading minds. It is not necessary to go to heaven, pointing upwards, it can be right here on the planet. Everyone sees, hears and reads minds, etc. Then we are all equal, there is a real democracy. This is also another issue of quantum mechanics. If everyone has access to everything, there can be no manipulation, things must occur on another level, there can be no negatives. No one can have negative thoughts in a place where everyone has this type of ability. That is what we are trying to put here. But not yet, because now we are struggling to explain the double slit, struggling to be able to transfer an English, French, math, physics course, a PIS manual, and so on, right? The struggle is still at this level, because there is the problem of the other person's emotions, which is very complicated. What will happen to me if I receive the emotional information of Schrödinger, a great physicist, a genius, one of the fathers of quantum mechanics, of wave mechanics? What is the problem with having all his information inside me? There are infinite possibilities. So, what's the problem? Let's not generalize, but many people struggle with non-existent problems. Can you get an idea of how many people there are here, pointing to himself? How many transfers have I made, just in the first 10 years of this research? Do you think I'm going to do the same as you? A CD, one thing, 2, 3, 4 things. It increases exponentially. The more I do, the greater my reception capacity becomes. Everything increases, expands in size and speed. So, you can download programs endlessly. Am I alive here? Still. I'm still flesh and blood. I eat lunch and dinner, I'm alive. Am I okay or am I crazy? I'm still functional. It's still possible to help everyone, right? Hélio is still functional, because people talk to him, receive what they asked for, things move along, improve, etc., so I can work within reality. Even though I have all these capabilities, I don't go around saying, I'm so-and-so, right? Do you remember who said, I am Napoleon Bonaparte? Send him to the asylum. I'm not saying I'm Napoleon Bonaparte. I'm Hélio Couto. I'm explaining this as an example, so you can see that there's no problem in making requests. They'll only grow, they'll only get better. Everything will become exponential. How much of today's information has been assimilated is anyone's guess, do you agree? I'll only have an idea next Thursday. The only thing we should be afraid of is fear itself. That was said many years ago. Fear, fear of being afraid, right? Yes. Any more questions? Good evening. Thank you.